Hello, historians. I'm going to be talking to you about sharecropping. This is Miss Melton. First, let us read the text from Pearson. Many African Americans and poor whites in the South became trapped in a system called sharecropping. Sharecropping is a system in which someone who owns land lets someone else rent the land to farm it. The renter or tenant farmer pays rent with a share of the crops he or she raises. The renter then uses the rest of the crops to feed the family or sell for income. In the South, sharecropping was run in a way that often kept people in debt. Landowners would charge high interest on money tenant farmers borrowed for seeds and tools. It was often impossible to pay off the debt. It was rare for sharecroppers to save enough money to buy their own land. So once they rented the land, they would also have to borrow money from the landowner to get tools and seeds to actually start growing crops. So they were constantly always in debt, which means they owed their landowner money. And this is a picture of sharecropping. And if you look, it's very similar to what in our minds slavery would look like on cotton plantations. It's um, young children and adults working in the fields and working hard long days, just like when they had slavery. However, they don't have a master yelling over them, but the reason why they're motivated to work hard every day is because they need money to pay for food and things for their house and clothes. So it's different than slavery, but it was very similar too. Now, from the Scott Forsman book. Many African Americans were forced to return to the plantations where they had worked as slaves because they could not find jobs elsewhere. Many blacks as well as whites became trapped in a system called sharecropping. And I think that's important to note that it wasn't just blacks who rented land from landowners, it was also whites, poor whites. Sharecroppers rented land from landowners. They paid their rent with a portion of their crop. Sharecroppers then used the rest of the crop to pay for food, clothing, and the equipment they needed to farm. Usually, the costs of sharecropping were higher than the pay they received. Sharecropper John Mosley explained, when our crop was gathered, we would still be in debt. So, now some important facts to know about sharecropping. Sharecropping is when a renter rents land and pays the landowner with part of the crops that the renter grows. Sharecropping benefited the landowner, not the renter. It was difficult for the renter to save enough money to buy the land. Those were some facts about sharecropping. And so, just like 40 acres and a mule, it's a good idea in theory, but the way it was carried out benefited whites, wealthy whites, not poor whites or former slaves, the new freedmen.